All right, everybody. Thank you so much for attending this. I want to present to you guys this tips and tricks of how to go to a project site and actually take the GTL 1003 out there, do some scans, bring it into Collage, and get our data in and out of Collage very quickly and efficiently. My name is Andy Huntley. I'm the National Scanning Technology Sales Manager. I've been doing this for over 10 years. Not working for Topcon, but working for different companies where I use all kinds of different technologies, being scanning, older GPS antennas, newer GPS antennas, data collectors, drones, scanners, all the fun stuff that construction guys use. Moving on, like I said, today we are going to discuss the GTL. This is a tool in Topcon's arsenal that no one else has. Others say they do, but really, if you break it down, nobody else does. So our agenda, I want to show the first thing, how to configure the GTL in magnet field layout. That should be the very first thing you do when you get a GTL or you get a new data collector. Regardless, you need to configure it. The next one is, how do we approach a project? After that, once we approach our project, how do we go out and scan a brand new project that's never been scanned before? And lastly, how can I bring that data in quickly and get it out of magnet collage quickly? So with that being said, let's go. How to configure magnet field layout for the GTL. Well, what you guys see here is magnet field layout. I have our vertical construction interface loaded into it. So if it looks a little different than what your guys' software looks like, please reach out. We'll more than gladly give you the interface to make it look easier. So I need to configure a new instrument type because I just got my brand new GTL 1000 and I need to set up my data collector. So I'll go to Jobs, Settings, Equipment. Now, this is what you guys normally would see if you're trying to configure for like an LN150, a GTV 505 or 503B, anything like those. This is the same steps except for just different instruments. Now, I want to go in and configure the equipment and hit edit. Once I do that, I type in the name GTL 1000. And then what type of instrument am I working with? Well, the GTL 1000 is a scanner, but it's more a robotic total station. So it's a robot. At that point, you hit the next, and what the software is going to do is ask you, what type of robot are you working with? Is it a Topcon? Is it a Sokia? Well, it's a Topcon. It's yellow. And then what model are we configuring for? The GTL 1000. After we get that done, what I typically do, and this is kind of one of those tips and trick things, if I know I'm going to use the same rod every time for my prism, I'll preset that up. It's just one less step I have to do in the field or when I'm setting up the instrument. But the big thing I do is I leave my instrument height at 0, default at 0. The reason I do that is because when I set up my instrument, I don't set it up on a fixed tripod height. My instrument heights are always changing, and I want to make sure I don't forget to change it, especially when I'm trying to do scanning. Moving on then, the next screen is going to ask you, what kind of communication are you going to have? You'll have two options, Bluetooth, or do you want to run the hard cable? This is a robotic total station. You're not going to do yourself any justice by connecting the data collector straight to the instrument. So I always recommend go Bluetooth. The next screen will ask you about your turning speed, your search area, and tracking. I typically turn my turning speed up to 100, as max as can be, just so that I get the full functionalities of those beautiful ultrasonic motors. The older motors weren't as fast. These ultrasonics are lightning speed. So why not show it? Why not use them? Next is prisms. If with the GTLs, you get the 360 prism, you might as well configure it for that 360 prism. But if you know you're going to have a different prism for your backside because you always want to set up with like a -30 offset fixed prism to a tripod, then you can easily change it here. But I typically, like I said, I use the same rod and the same prism as I'm setting up my instrument as to laying out points or as built-in points. So I just leave it there. Measurement, EDM, put it at tracking, average of 1. And then a lot of these next settings, I just let magnet, the default settings, just take over. But the biggest thing, though, that you want to watch out for is this layout setting. Turn to design point. I leave that at none. The reason I do that is because I don't want, when I go to select a point and it tells me, hey, all right, you're going to lay out point 1005. Well, I want it to walk me to 1005. I don't want the instrument to automatically turn and start searching for me because I need to still walk to there and I need to know which way I need to walk. So I set it at none and I will tell it where I want to go. So once you have all that, there is a check mark up at the top, the green check. Go ahead and press that, and then it will get into the. Now, how do we want to approach these projects or any type of scanning layout type project? Well, what is key? You need a game plan. And what I mean by a game plan is you need to know what is the end result. When I'm setting up, like I got contracted in to go scan a piece of property because they want to do engineering plans for it, or the dirt contractor wants me to go in and check it to make sure to get his cut and fills for him to balance the soil. I would need to know what is my end result. Next one is what targets am I going to use? Am I going to go prisms? Am I going to go reflectorless? Or am I just going to go cloud to cloud? Next, how many scans are we looking at? This is going to dictate how we approach the project. The more scans I need to do, that's more time. So I need to get a good idea of what I'm looking for. On top of that is, if I know I'm going to need to do, we'll just say 100 scans, well, I need to make sure my SD card has a room for 100 scans. So that's a big tip. Know how many how many scans you need to make sure you have enough data storage on your SD cards. If you're somebody that likes to keep files on the SD card, you got to keep that in mind when you go into your next project. Excuse me. Now, is there control? Is there a known coordinate system that you need to tie into? That's a big factor. Because if I'm going to just go and assume a coordinate system, then I can just go out and do whatever I need to. But if there is actual control, then I need to know what the control points are. Where are they located? Are they disturbed or not? So that when I go start doing my work with the GTL, if I'm scanning, I want to make sure all my point clouds line up perfectly. So those are some things. And then how much time do I have for the project? Do I have 2 hours on the site where I got the site to myself? Or do I have a window that's only like 30 minutes and I need to try to get as much work done in a short amount of time? And then deliverable on the back end. How much time do I have to get the data, clean it up, export it, and then possibly run it through some Collage software. These are all things that we need to know when setting up a project. So let's pretend, like I said, I'm going to be having a project where I'm a concrete guy and I need to go in. I've got a parcel that needs to be graded out because we're going to put storm drains in. We're going to do paving and concrete slabs. So what I would do is go in and set up my instrument. I'd find the control points, known coordinate system. Where I live, we live in state plane a lot of times because it's easy to tie projects together. So what I would do is set up, find my coordinate systems or my control points, get everything lined up, ready to go. And then I would start localizing into that coordinate and then start moving after I get my scans done. And I'd shoot extra points. And pretty much wherever you see the GTL pop up, I would try to have a control point that I'm setting up over, just so that when I do the scans, when I bring it back into Collage, it's already registered. We're doing a live registration this way. How do I do these scans? Well, like I said earlier, I'm using our interface for vertical construction in the magnet software. And what I would do is if this is a project that I'm not tying into any known points or anything like that, I have one autonomous point, and I've got to build the project. This is the way I would do it. I'd go over known point. I would select my point number that I created, which was autonomous 1000 northing, 1000 easting, 100 elevation, something like that. After I do that, I set it up, set my instrument height, and then I would change where under backside point, sometimes it's going to say point number or point name. If you press that button, it will turn to either azimuth or direction. I would do direction. Once I have that, I'll hit next. And then I would take my GTL and I would turn it to point a direction of north. Just best guess what north is. Once I've got that, there's this little box down in the bottom left that says measure distance. I would check that. If you have it checked, it's going to try to create a backside point. A lot of times, I don't really want to do that. I just want to point it north, and then I traverse around wherever I need to go. So I uncheck it and then click set. Once I hit set, you get the same deviation report like you normally would for everything else. My instrument is set up on that known point that we created, the autonomous point. I need to go in and scan. So the first thing I would do is hit site scan. The scanner is going to warm up. The GTL scanner head turns on when we want to use it and turns off when we don't want to use it. That's to conserve battery power. The next tip I'm going to tell you is during the boot up of the scanner, if you do not have an SD card inserted in the unit, you will get an error message that will appear and it says, hey, you don't have an SD card. The scanner will turn off. Pop an SD card in, turn it back on. You'll be good, off to the races. So once the scanner card, you've got the card in, everything's good to go. We need to configure our scan parameters. The first thing I'm always going to say is do a full dome scan. If you're there, you might as well. It's going to take almost the same amount of time to do a full dome scan as it would for like an area scan. Around. The next one is station type. If you want to do the live registration, you need to do current occupation point. If you want to do like cloud to cloud, then you would just change it to none, but then you spend more time in the back end. processing your point clouds. After you get station type all set up, click images. Go ahead and just do your images so that when you want to bring data into like Navisworks, you can actually see your point clouds, everything like that. Next one down, scan resolution. I always run fine. You're talking about a minute longer in scan time. And sometimes that minute longer, you'll get more data on some points that you didn't normally wouldn't get because it is about 4 times denser data going fine than standard. So a minute longer, more points, go for it. At the bottom, you're going to see space available. That's how many scans under either fine or standard you have available. Like I said earlier, having that game plan, knowing how many scans you need to do for that, and then for your SD card is big because you don't want to be in the middle of a project and you run out of room on your SD card. So after you get that, you hit scan. You'll get an error warning pop up, says, hey, is your lens cap off for the camera? You can actually set this up where it never shows, but I'm kind of a creature of habit, and I tend to rush things, and sometimes I might forget that lens cap. This is a good reminder of, hey, slow down, make sure you got the lens cap uncovered, everything's good. I would typically say, let this error message pop up. It's not really an error, it's just a warning. Let it pop up. If you know you've already got it off, just hit close. One extra press. So at this point, the scanner will start. It'll say shooting. And what it's going to do is take a series of 12 photos on the first go around. So it'll spin around every 30 degrees. It'll stop, take a photo, move 30, stop, take a photo. As soon as it's done with that, then it'll go and start doing a 180 scan. And the reason I say it's 180 is the GTL, like I said, it is something different where nobody else in the market has one. It's taking a scan forward and backward at the same time, where our competitors can't really do that. Instruments in this class or range that produce point clouds, it's taking a bunch of reflectorless shots through the barrel. So they had to do a full 360. We can get away with a 180 rotation. At the end, you'll get this beautiful gray photo. This is your point cloud. Where you see blue, however, is unseen data. It couldn't get a good return back, so it didn't keep those points. This allows you to go in and make sure you've got what you need. A lot of times people just overlook this and say, okay, I've got trust in my scanner. I know what I'm doing. I'm good. And if that's the case, then just hit the green check. If you need to add a couple extra points into the point cloud, it's very simple. You turn the laser pointer on with the little red button there. You point the instrument where you want to take that shot at, and you take the measurement. It will store that point as a point in the point cloud, and you can easily go in and find them. So we're going to fast forward. We're going to pretend like, hey, we went out to the site and we did 2 scans because that's all I really needed to do. I've got my scans done. They're set up on control. What do I do now? So I'm going to exit out of the PowerPoint. And I want to come up here to a file, Explorer, Windows Explorer. What my creature of habit has always been is wherever I'm going to put my data, I'm going to create a project folder. And in this case, I'm going to call it quick, just because we want to do a quick scan of the outside of this building. Inside there, I'm going to take the SD card, the data I got off of it, which the project name was jobs or job. I'm going to put my SD card right in here. And as you see, there's 2 scans plus the GTL project on here. At this point, I now have pulled my data off of my SD card, have a file structure set up where everything's going to be self-contained, and now I go into Collage. Open up Collage. I have a brand new workspace. So right away, I know if you worked with Magnet software, especially like the field software, it does backups periodically if you have it turned on. So I want to, all the backups that it's going to produce for me, I want it to be stored in the same file as where my data is. So I'm going to go ahead and automatically save my workspace. And so we'll come over here and I'll navigate exactly to where that folder is. There's the quick. And we'll give our project name demo. Now you notice it's no longer an untitled workspace. It's now called demo. Well, looks great, but there's no data. So let's go ahead and bring data in. Once again, I click File, I hit Data, Add Existing Scans. A dialog box will appear. All you have to do is just navigate to where did you store the SD card data. And what it's asking for is a scan project. If you're using the GTL 1000, it'll tell you GTL 1000. If you're using a GLS 2000, this project folder will be GLS 2000. Once you've got that, make sure it's set to user defined. Collage has got some quirks to it where if you use geodesic, when you want to create the model, it will kind of error out a little bit. So it's always best to just go ahead and set it up as user defined. Hit OK. 2 scans successfully came in. Let's see what they look like. Well, this is what you get. Raw point cloud data, the computer doesn't know how to read it properly. That's why we had to process it. This goes for almost every scanner out there. If you bring raw data in, their software tends to, they don't know how to interpret it. So you have to process. All I do is click on the blue scanner icon, right click, hit process scan in images. Another dialog box will appear. The very first thing, post scan, hit start. Do you want to colorize your scans from the photos? Yes. If you notice, the first 2 are already going, plus our filter and our smoothing filter. All this first command will basically control all of these things. The only thing it doesn't do is stitch panoramas, but we don't really care about that right now. Once I have that going, I hit close, and you notice right away my data is already coming in, and looks like I've got one more scan set up to wait for. We'll give it a minute. The other thing at this point is if I wanted to see my scans in a 3D view, even while like scan station 2 was processing, I could still move around if I have one. But in this case, scan station 2 is already processed. And since these 2 scans were set up on control points, you notice my building is perfectly lined up now. Biggest tip I can tell you with the GTL 1000 is treat it like it's a robotic tool station first. Do anywhere setups, do overknown point setups, because once you've got that and you do your scans, everything just ties together and drops in perfectly in Collage, just like you see here. So I have my scan, but you now notice out from a top view, I've got a lot of excess data. I don't really care about my neighbors across the street. That's not my project site. And I don't care about my neighbors next door because that's not my project site. I'm going to go in here real quick and we're going to crop out all the extra stuff. Notice what I highlighted inside is now turned magenta. That's selected points. I don't want to mess with those. I want to mess with everything else. So I selected what I wanted to keep. I'm going to invert my selection. Now the stuff that I don't want has been selected. And then I just hit delete. At this point here, you notice the only points I'm working with is my project. So from here, what I can easily do is decide, where do I want to put my data? Well, part of that, having a game plan, when you go out, you need to know what is your deliverable going to be. Well, I know since I created my game plan, I'm going to put this data into a Autodesk platform like Edgewise from ClearEdge, because I want to go ahead and create my model off of it. So I right click on the blue scanner icon again, and I hit export. Our export window will appear. All I've got to do is hit choose, because I want to change where my data, my output file path is going. So I want to put it in that same folder, since I like to keep everything confined into one area. And in this folder, we're going to create a new folder called export. The reason I create another folder, and this is another tip, is because what Collage allows us to do is export multiple files at one time. As you can see here, my exports right now are set up for an E57 and an RCS file. These two file formats are probably going to be the most universal file formats you could ever need, because the E57, you can pretty much go anywhere with that, and the RCS file is Autodesk file format. Most of the country works in Autodesk. You've got those put in. If you notice you're missing one, all you gotta do is click add, switch it to scans, and now you have a whole drop down menu. Once I have that done, I want to keep my point cloud registered. I don't want it to break apart. I need to keep know what units I need to export out and the angle units. Having your software already defaulted to certain units and things speeds the process up. I'm here in the United States, so we work with US feet. If I was anywhere else in the world, I would naturally have to go meters. Once I have that done, hit OK. You'll start to notice the point clouds are disappearing. What it's doing is it's now converting the point clouds, and if you notice on the task menu, it will tell me every step of the way how much is going. The next big tip I'm going to tell you, this little black window, it will appear when you're exporting RCS files. Do not close that window, because if you close it, you could corrupt that export out. So always just leave it be. You can click on Collage again if you want, and just let it fall behind. It will work in the background. At this point here, as the point clouds finish up, they will appear back in, just like processing the data. And I've got one more scan left to go, because under the first station, there was 2 scans, one in fine and one in standard. But while that's going, let's go back to that job folder. And that same export folder I just created in Collage, here it is. And if you notice, I've started getting all my scans exports in here. As this last RCS file finishes up, we will see it populate in here. And here in a second, it's finalizing writing all the files. Complete. We'll open up that folder. I have three, since there is 3 scans, I have 3 E57s and 3 RCS files. At this point here, I am now done with Collage, and I can go into any other software that I need to view my point cloud in. So with that being said, how to get in and out of Collage very quickly. I just showed you guys create the workspace. After I create the workspace, then I turn around, bring the data in, process it real quick, clean it up by deleting out what I don't need, and then exporting. Once I finish exporting, I'm done with Collage. I'm out. Any questions, guys? All right, with that said, thank you guys so much for your time. If you think of anything afterwards, please feel free to reach out to your Topcon representative. We'll be more than glad to assist you. Other than that, you guys have a good day. Thank you so much.